Okay. All right. Fine. 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 Since nobody's been twisting my arm, since nobody has been kicking me in the ass, and since nobody has been asking me, hey, Jonah, you did the DNA test video predictions like 8 months ago, and we're still kind of waiting on the results. All right, I've been procrastinating. I'm sorry. I'm a grown-ass man who's got things in his life that he's got to do, and I don't always have time to do this kind of thing right here with me and you. But right now, since I am drinking once again, I got things on my chest and in my mind that I want to say about this. So I did obviously get my test results, and I saw them, and I was surprised in a way. You know, my mother always taught me that as a Puerto Rican, we are a combination of European, Spaniard, she mostly said Spaniard, Native American, and black, which is exactly what my DNA shows. According to my DNA, I'm like 65% European, 20% Native, 20% black, and 14% Native American. So, since you've all been waiting very patiently and been not demanding this video, for all my 7 subscribers out there, I will tell you my results and give my thoughts afterwards. Okay, so to the point. Spain, 34%. Portugal, 21%. Puerto Rico, indigenous, 10%. Cameroon, Congo, and Southern Bantu peoples, 9%. Nigeria, 4%. European Jewish, 3%. Germanic Europe, 3%. Irish, Scottish, 3%. Northern African, 3%. France, 2%. Indigenous Cuba, 2%. Mali, 2%. Senegal, 2%. Colombia y Venezuela, 1%. República Dominicana, 1%. And the Basque, -1%. Now here are my thoughts. You see, Spain is not a homogenous country. You see, you know, there's been in throughout the centuries in the past, you know, thousands of years of intermingling and mixing between the Iberians and the Celts, creating Celtiberians, and then you got the Moors, and then you got the Amazigh people, and then you have the Germanic people that came in and conquered, and then the Romans that came in. You know, it's weird to say you're 34% Spain, because Spain is not really a race, nor, I don't know how to explain that more. And it's the same thing with Portugal. You know, says that I'm 21% Portuguese, but like, how can you say that I'm 34% Spain, 21% Portuguese? Sorry. When it's both in the same peninsula. You know, they kind of have similar history there. You know, the culture is not too different from each other. You know, it's almost like I'm not even going to compare, because I know I'm going to get some people on here that's going to be like, I am offended that you just said that. But that's how I feel about that. You know, I wish it would break that down, you know, how much Iberian or how much whatever, you know, there's got to be like Italian in there from the Romans, or the Carthaginians, for example. You have the Greeks that came in, and they did their thing. They traded, they sold. The Greeks did. The Greeks, they did it more in the West Coast. I mean, I'm sorry, more in the East Coast part of the peninsula. I would say Catalonia would be the number one spot that they did, but the Phoenicians are a little here and there, a little bit of everywhere. Phoenicians slash Carthaginians. But the Romans, the Iberian Peninsula was Rome's most proud, damn it, most prized state. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. And then the Tainos. Okay, my mother always told me, Taino. It is the average Puerto Rican is about 10 to 20% Taino. Most of them, a lot of them are around the 15% spot. Cameroon, Congo, Southern Bantu peoples, 9%. I mean, I don't know what that is, Cameroon, Congo, and Southern Bantu people. All right, that's cool. The tribal Africans, hunter gatherers, that's cool. Nigeria, which is close to that area. It's in the East Coast side of the continent of Africa. That's where a lot of struggles happened. I've read a lot of stuff about Nigeria, and even today, right now, as we speak, there's a lot of stuff going on in Nigeria. And my heart goes out to the families out there who are dealing with this stuff. That is a country that for some reason has a hard time seeing peace. And I just don't know why the Africans cannot see eye to eye and just come together as one people. It's just so heartbreaking to see that these, whatever. I can give you my opinion, but then my comment section is gonna be like empty. So European Jewish 3%. That's another one that's kind of weird to me, because you got the blood, I've seen videos where people have like Sephardic Jew and then European Jew, and then there's all these other kind of Jews, Ashkenazi Jew. This person's a Jew, that's a Jew, this person's a Jew, and then they all claim that Israel is their home. I can go in debt into those claims, but this video would not even be able to be posted. All right? European Jewish, that's not a thing. All right? It makes no sense. Okay, so let's move on. Germanic Europe 3%. Okay, so I thought that was kind of cool, from the Visigoths or blah blah blah. Germanic is it's a lot of people think of Germanic as the country of Germany, which basically was the heart of it. But you also have the Netherlands, which are very close to Dutch. You have oh my gosh. Every time, you see, I have these words in my head, and it sounds great. I tell myself, man, that sounds good. You should say that. But then when I press play on this thing, everything leaves my head. You got, okay, the Germanic people, such as the Germans. You have the Dutch people, even some parts of Scandinavia. These are all Germanic-speaking tribes of people. So I thought that was cool. I've always been intrigued in the ancient Germanic culture. Irish Scottish 3%. I thought that was cool. You see, here's the thing. All of these are updated DNA things. All right. So before I had an update, I didn't have Germanic. Irish Scottish was at 4%, but everything else is the same right here that I've said so far. So Irish Scottish went from actually 5% to 3%. And I was a little heartbroken at that because I love the Celtic peoples. I love the culture. I love the music. I love their speech. And not because of Conor McGregor. I know you were gonna say that. That's not the reason, man. It's not because of Conor McGregor. It's not because of Braveheart. This is just it's just a beautiful culture. I love it. I see that and then I wonder why people think white people have no culture. It's because you've been living in America. Get out of here. So, North Africa, 3%. I was not surprised about that. I was surprised that it was only 3%. I thought it would be a little higher, but like I said earlier, from the Moors, the word Moors came from Moriscos, which also came from Mauritania, which was an ancient civilization in northern Africa. Not the Mauritania that we see today in the lower west coast part of the country of Africa. The country of Africa. Wow, what an idiot. The continent of Africa. The word Morisco derives from that, and a lot of people say it's because of the skin color of these people. They were Moorish, which means like a maroon, like browner. I don't think that's the case. I think it was because Mauritania was in that part before it was Morocco and Tunisia and blue blah blah blue. But I was excited about that because I also am very intrigued with the Amazigh culture. A lot of people call them Berbers today for some reason. You hear the word Berber and you think of these people, but that's a derogatory term. It's kind of like calling a black guy the N-word. And you know how that goes when you say the N-word. Oh my God, your life is over. So I don't want to say Berber to talk about these people because if you can see, I'm 3% Berber, all right? I just didn't. I did it. You see? I'm a Zig. I'm 3% Amazigh. Stupid idiot. So France, 2%. Before the update, I had 7% French. 7%. They put me down to 2%. Now, even that, I don't understand because France is very similar to Spain and the way that it was conquered and they had immigrations of groups of people. You had the French. They were originally populated by the Celtic Gauls, which were invaded by the Romans. They went to numerous wars with the Romans, and it was a very, very, very bloody war. Hundreds of thousands of, maybe even millions of, not millions, but close to that number of Gauls died and were slaughtered. A lot of people talk about this genocide and that genocide and that genocide. And then we're still today talking about them because they were so bad. But I'll tell you what, there is studies that show that there were more Gauls that were killed by the Romans, more than there was in the Civil War and the Revolutionary War. And let's put it this way, there were more Gauls that were killed than more Americans that died in the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, the World War I and World War II. So it was pretty bloody. And then they had, the Franks, which are also a Germanic tribe. They had, even Vikings. But anyway, let's continue on because we're 14 minutes in now. Indigenous Cuba, which are also the Taínos, which go back to even Puerto Rico, indigenous Puerto Rico, which are the Taínos. You see, the Caribbean was it was populated by indigenous Tainos before the time of Columbus's arrival in 1492. There were hundreds of thousands of them. They were not all part of one culture, as a lot of people would say. You see, the Tainos, they were a mixed indigenous race. You know, you had the Tainos, you had the Arawaks, you had the native Caribs, which were a very warlike tribe that intermingled. They all intermingled with each other, you know, and it created this race called the Taino that we call the Taino. The word Taino alone is I think it means noble man. But yeah, anyway, 2% Mali. I thought that was cool. Before the update, it was 4%, but now it's 2. But that's okay. It's still in my blood. Mali was also an ancient empire in Africa. You see, Africa, for those of you that don't know, Africa had huge empires. We always go back and think of ancient Egypt. It was a great empire. Oh, Egypt. It was amazing. You have the pyramids, you have this, you have that. And don't get me wrong, it was a great empire, but it was not the only one. You had the Carthaginian Empire, you had the Nubia Empire, you had Numidia, you also had Mauritania, and you even had the Mali Empire. These are great empires that existed in ancient Africa. All right, so if you are black and you are watching this video, please check out Ancient Empires of Africa and look at your culture, and you will see, man, the greatness that comes out of ancient Africa. 2% Senegal. I don't know too much about Senegal. I know that it is like right next to Mali. I mean, not Mali. It is right next to Nigeria. I can only imagine that they share almost the same history as Nigeria and Cameroon Congo people, because it is also next to the Congos. Yeah, I don't know too much about Senegal. I know that it is beautiful. Okay, 1% Colombia, Venezuela. I thought that was cool, but at the same time, it's only 1%. Come on. It didn't surprise me though, because science says the Taino people from the Caribbeans and the Greater Antilles and the Lesser Antilles, they migrated from Colombia, Venezuela, from the Arawak tribes from northern South America. They migrated upward from the Lesser Antilles all the way up into the Greater Antilles. 1% Dominican Republic, República Dominicana. Yeah, it's the same as Cuba and Taino, you know, the same as Cuba and Puerto Rico, you know, the Taino people, you know, a lot of people. Listen, man, the Puerto Ricans can cry. I'm Puerto Rican, guys. The Puerto Ricans can cry when they're called a Dominican. We can complain when you call us a Cuban. And vice versa, you know, Cubans being called Puerto Ricans, Dominicans being called Puerto Ricans, Cubans, blah, blah, blah. You know, but we share the same culture, basically. You know, the Dominicans are a little bit more African, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know, but they're a little bit more African. The average Dominican is about 9% Taino. But, you know, we're basically the same, man. Cubans, Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, we're basically the same, man. We gotta love each other, man. All you Cubans, Dominicans, Puerto Ricans out there that are listening to this, please, just love each other. Kiss each other on the cheek, you know, love each other. We live in an age of acceptance. So negative 1% Basques. I wasn't too. I was, you know, negative 1%. What is that? That's like nothing. You know, 1% is barely anything. What's negative 1%? But you know, Basques. nobody really knows, Basque is right there in the border of France and Spain. So if you check that out on the map, you'll see Basque country. Look into it. It is very unique in its culture, very unique in its and the language. Basque is one of a kind. If you look into it, it has no language family. Basque is the only one of its kind. They say that it's the original Celtic people, but I don't know about that. But yeah, they don't know where they came from. You know, I don't know, man. They're Basque people. But anyway, those are my results of my DNA. Like I said before, it doesn't matter if you like or subscribe. I personally do not care because I'm not a YouTuber. Like I said in my past videos, I don't give a damn. So if you like, that's cool. If you comment, that's cool. Positive or negative, I don't care. People, they have sticks up their ass wherever they go. I drive down the street and somebody's driving like they got a stick up their ass. Yeah, it is what it is. Whether DNA tests are real or not, it's interesting still. So, anyway, that's it for the video. 21 minutes in, a little longer than I expected, but hey, if you watched the whole thing, I appreciate it, and take care.